Hi, everyone. Welcome to this live product demo about the three-level governance. We have Idem and Alex on our webinar today to tell you all about what the three-level governance is all about. What are these three levels that we're talking about? Why would you even consider this? Why is this important? When to set it up and how? Alex will tell you all about it. She's a a customer success manager here at Folian, talking to plenty of customers day in and day out. And we have Irem, a product owner, who has actually worked on developing this feature. And she is going to tell us or show us actually what it looks like, how it's set up in your account, and how you can best use it. We do have room for Q&A at the end, so feel free to submit your questions in the chat. We have Marina online answering all your questions. So if there's anything that's like unclear, confusing, or maybe you want to just check in how it works for you, let us know. If we don't have time, we'll just get back to you later. But definitely drop your questions, and we're going to go right to them. Irem, Alex, thank you for joining us live today. Irem, I will get back to you in a moment so that Alex and I can start this off. Alex, would you maybe like to tell us, as you do talk to a lot of customers, what do you hear is most top of mind when you talk to them recently?
Is really about getting the balance between control and freedom. While on one side, we have the marketing and brand teams who really want to protect the integrity of the brand, particularly as organizations begin to grow and scale content. Either that may be across regions, or if they want to begin to operate across multiple different business units. But at the same time, then we also have local teams who really want the freedom to create content quickly without having to go through long approval processes. This tension is exactly what the admin and brand console helps solve. So what they do is they really provide a way to set up brand rules and permissions centrally. But they also allow teams in different regions or departments to operate independently. So we have, in this case, then we have that the brand stays consistent, but content production doesn't get bottleneck. It's a really popular pain point that we see, and this setup addresses it really well.
That's fantastic. Yeah, so it's a new setup that's now available in your account. We're going to go into each of those elements in a moment. But basically, when you talk to customers, what do you see as indications or things they mention where you see that improving their account setup could be of an immediate benefit to them?
Yeah, good question. I think initially there's a couple of very clear signs that we try to look for. So one would be when a customer mentions that different teams or regions are working independently or creating content without coordination. That's typically the first red flag, as this leads to branding consistency or duplicated efforts. Another sign is really when brand teams are getting overwhelmed. So this may be because they're creating content for every different team, or they're spending way too much time reviewing content just to make sure that it's following the brand guidelines. Other than that, again, when we hear our key points of contact saying somebody accidentally changed certain account settings, or they've kind of lost visibility of who's creating what. When we hear that, it's usually time that they need to rethink their workspace structure. So moving to that three-level governance model really helps bring that visibility and structure back. And it also doesn't take away the flexibility from the teams that are creating content.
That's amazing. Yeah, and that ties again into just what you've heard that your customers really want lately. Can you maybe share an example, like the story of one of your customers who you've seen has been really helped in maybe the speed of creation, the quality control of their content by improving their account setup?
Yeah, I think one of my favorite examples of one of our bigger customers would be the global law firm Pins & Masons. They were really facing that classic challenge of having multiple different offices, and I think across 28 different locations, each needing to create local content, but all under the one global brand. So before implementing the three-level governance, they were facing these difficulties with brand consistency and really inefficient content workflows. So once they started to introduce that admin and the brand console, they were able to define the brand elements centrally, and then they were able to actually give each region its own workspace, which allowed each region to then create and manage their own content independently, but under that brand governance. Well, the result of this really just was, a lot of faster content creation. They didn't have people having to do multiple different checks. There was stronger brand governance and a clear structure that helped them to scale their business. I think this example is a really good success story of how the right structure can really unlock both creativity and control.
Yeah, that's great. Of course, it is a bigger customer. Later on, I'd be curious to see how this is also relevant for smaller organizations that may not have global teams everywhere, but we'll touch on that. Can you then maybe just take us through those 3 levels, so the admin console, brand console, and workspaces, and what they are?
Yeah, absolutely. So really that needs to be just seen as like a 3-layer system. At the top, you do have that admin level. This is really where the global settings are set. So we have your user roles, the access controls, and the overall workspace architecture. This is really where your foundations of your platform are built. Next, then we have our brand console, which is where the brand teams define things like your templates, fonts, colorings, and all of those components. And so no matter who's creating that content, they're always using approved assets. And it's also ensuring brand consistency. Then the next level that we have is your workspaces. So these are like almost like individual rooms for, again, your teams, departments, or regions, depending on how you want it to be set up. Each workspace can manage its own content and users, but again, it's going to be within those boundaries set by the admin and the brand console. So when you think of it, it's a very structured, but it's still a very flexible system. It gives you control where you need it, but also the autonomy where it makes sense.
That's amazing. Well, I'm starting to get really curious to also see this in practice. If you do have questions as our audience, please let us know in the chat. Marina is there again. But maybe, Alex, could you maybe tell us when it's best to set up your 3-level governance?
So I think there's a couple of reasons why I think it's a good time to set this up. As you mentioned, it's not just for those huge kind of like much larger firms. Typically, we would say that the 3-level model really shines when your organization is growing, if it's diverse, or again, if it's quite complex. So say if you have multiple different teams producing content, or you're working across different brands or regions, this structure really helps you to scale without that chaos and really understand what's happening and who's creating what. It would also be ideal when your brand needs to be tightly controlled. So for example, if you're in a very regulated industry or a multi-market organization, so when you really need to have fuller control over content and bigger eyes over that. But again, setting this early can really help you avoid a lot of headaches. It doesn't have to mean that you're on that enterprise level. It just makes everything a lot more manageable. So you were assigning clear roles, clear ownership, and strong brand integrity.
That is amazing. I'm also including Irem in the conversation again. Before we move on, Alex, anything final that you wanted to add before I cut you off?
No, I think that's everything. I think, just kind of as you said, it's not just for those bigger companies. It's a great thing to start off and really start strong, I think, and get the platform organized.
Fantastic. Then, Irem, if you're ready, would you be okay to take us through and show us around in the admin console, brand console, and workspaces?
Sure. Thanks, Loke. I guess Alex covered it really well, but I'm actually quite excited to show you as well how it looks in practice. So I will explain it from top, from the admin console, and then move to the brand console and finish with the workspaces, so you can actually see how control and collaboration come together in practice. So let's start with the admin console. So this is where your central hub is basically for your managing all account-wide settings. From here, you can create and manage workspaces, invite and assign users, configure platform-wide settings like domains, the global doc settings, and this is where you set your foundation, how your teams are actually working across the platform. So let's start with the workspaces. So this is really the backbone how your teams are organized. In this example, we broke down the workspaces by their departments, like customer service, customer success, HR, each with its own content environment and user access. One important thing to mention here, you'll see this pipe or the vertical line combined with your company name. This means that is your company workspace. So any user assigned here can access to all other workspaces that you see here. So in this case, we have 3 users here who can see and access all the listed workspace. And this structure makes it easy to separate content and streamline collaboration and avoid any accidental overlaps because you have the control. And from this view, admins get full visibility that who's in this, how many numbers of users are in that account, the number of projects or the number of docs or the published docs that you have. So with this view, basically you have a full overview. And in order to create these spaces, you just hit start new workspace, name your workspace and break it down by its department. So that way you created your new workspace. And next to is the users page. And this is where admins can see and control who has access to the platform and what they can actually do. You see a complete list of the users along with their assigned roles and the workspaces they have access to. Our first user here, for example, has access to sales workspace. And our second user has access to company workspace, which means that they can actually access to all workspaces. And our third user has marketing access along with some other workspaces, which you can expand it by clicking the chip. So let's invite a new user. Obviously, we are entering their general information, but what is most important here is to choose whether they should have access to admin console or the brand console or just a specific workspace. For example, if someone is managing setting across departments, then you will obviously assign them an admin role and make sure that you assign them in the company account. Alternatively, if you want that user to manage all your brand assets and control them centrally, then you give them a designer role and still make sure that they have the company access, so therefore they can access to all workspaces and distribute the content correctly and give all the users basically the tools they need and the spaces they work properly. And this way that all users have access where they need, nothing more and nothing less. So next up is domains page. So here, that is a very core part of your publishing governance. And domains can be created either at the company level right here in the admin console or within the individual workspaces. If a domain is created here, it's made available to all your workspaces, and that's great for centralized control. For example, when you want everything to publish under your core company URL, but in some cases, you may want your teams or regions to have their own publishing domains, and you can do that at the workspace level in the domain section. So yeah, regardless where you create them, actually, all domains are visible in the admin console here in the domain section. And that's way admins can have a general overview and always have full visibility and control of the domains. And the next up is your global doc settings. And this is a key feature for ensuring compliance and consistency across all the content. These settings allow you to pre-configure defaults for every new doc that's get created, things like cookies, privacy, and more. And if certain things are non-negotiable, for example, if all docs must include like cookies consent, you can lock them here. That way, individual editors can't accidentally override them. On the other hand, if you want to give your teams more autonomy, you can leave these settings unlocked, and this gives them a solid starting point, but with room to adapt. So in short, the admin console gives you the complete control over how your account is structured, who can access what, and which global publishing rules are enforced. So next up is the brand console. And this is where your brand identity really goes like in the scale. And Brand Kit in Folion includes your core design elements like your fonts, colors, logos, or default styling to ensure every doc created by your team is aligned with your brand. So there are 2 places where you can create the brand kits. They can be created in the brand console or locally within the individual workspaces. Only company level admins and designers can access to the brand console, and the workspace level users can use these kits that assign for them, but cannot access or edit anything that is managed here. So this structure supports different ways of working, like if you're in a centralized model for full brand control or decentralized setup that gives teams more creative freedom. And you can also obviously combine these two together for a hybrid approach. So you don't have to choose, whilst you can have it all, right? So you can see we already created 2 brand kits here. One is assigned to all workspaces and one doesn't have any workspace assigned at the moment. So let's try to assign a workspace for this marketing and sales brand kit and hit settings button. The name is already coming here and we want to assign this brand kit to the marketing workspace. Alternatively, you can also toggle this on and make this brand kit available to all workspaces. But in this case, we want to assign it to the marketing workspace. So this way you can actually find out your brand kits in the relevant workspaces. And how do you actually duplicate an existing brand kit? Because let's say your team creates a solid brand kit locally and you want to make it available more broadly and you want to take it up to the brand console. You simply go to your workspace and your brand kits, find your brand kit. We know for a fact this kit actually coming from the brand console. You can see this is in workspace and this is in the brand console. But I want to take up this brand kit to my brand console. And I select brand console and I duplicate it. And I'll go back to my brand console. And you can simply see that I just created a duplicate of an existing brand kit. So overall, before you setting up your kits, it's helpful to think about where you fall in the spectrum between centralized and decentralized governance. But either way, we have something to cover your needs as you see it. And next up, let's see our 3rd tier, which is our workspaces. This is where the teams actually collaborate and create the content. Each workspace has its dedicated environment with its own users, projects, or templates. And this structure helps you separate content by department, region, or a business unit. And you can see your workspaces here in the list. And every workspace has a personalized homepage. You'll see your recently opened projects, your favorited docs, or quick access to templates, that including folio templates. And this gives your team a clean and focused starting point that is tailored to their work. One very important thing to mention here is the members page. Users are added and managed in the admin console, where you assign platform roles and workspace access. But once someone is added to a workspace, they become a member of that workspace. In this page, you can clearly see who is where and what their role are. And it's especially useful for editors and designers who want to collaborate, for example. If you're working on a doc and need someone to review it, you can check it here in the list and see if they already have access. Or if they don't, you can ask your admin to invite them here. So overall, across all 3 layers, the admin console, the brand console, and workspaces, we give you the tools to strike the right balance between the control and the flexibility. So this is how our 3-tier governance looks like in practice.
Lavka, I think you're on mute.
Thanks for the reminder. It was very insightful. The first question that I saw in the chat, I think you've answered it. It was by Mary. Mary, if you haven't had that question answered, please let us know, because then Idem can show you. It was the question about, sorry, it just jumped. Currently in my brand console, I can see that there are brand kits in the workspaces, but not what those brand kits are or manage them. Is that a feature that is coming? Yeah, and she's now saying it answered perfectly, so thank you.
Great.
That's amazing. In the meantime, I've also opened a poll question. So if you're like, wow, this is like too much to think about, or have no idea where to start in how to organize my workspaces for team or my brand kits or whatever, you can just have like a consultation call or a conversation with your customer success manager. So just let us know if you're interested in that, then we'll definitely make sure they reach out to you.